Global Affairs analyst Sam Phatey joins me on the news from Washington, D.C. via Skype to discuss this. Good to have you join us, Sam Phatey.
My pleasure.
When you heard about this, I mean, this first surfaced in 2013, 2014, but now that you've heard about the Danish collaboration with America, what's your reaction?
Well, it's not surprising. Basically, it is nothing new. It has been an existing issue that pretty much kind of was swept under the rug. It's the same continuation of the same allegations from 2013. Now, when it came up in 2013, the White House didn't say much. They didn't give an outright denial, but they said that, yes, it will be unacceptable to spy on your allies. But we have to be realistic in our world today. From the outcome of the First World War historically to date, spying has been part of politics and geopolitics and international relations. No matter how much you trust your allies, when we engage internationally, you are not engaging because you want to protect America. America is not engaging with Europe because they just want to protect Europe. First and foremost, the most important and critical thing is that America wants to protect its own national interest. In international politics, your national interest comes first before anything. I can give dozens of examples as to what may be morally wrong for America to condone, but they are condoning it because, again, they are looking at their national interest. So in this situation here, I can clearly tell you, while it became obvious that, okay, America is spying on its allies, there's nothing to say that those allies are not also spying on America. It's happening.
And that's the issue, though, Sam, because you just said that spying is part of politics. And it leaves one to wonder, what is the essence of international coalitions like NATO that allows for intelligence sharing if these countries are going to end up spying on each other?
Well, you see, and that's the whole thing. And you use the key word here, which is intelligence sharing. If Denmark helps the U.S. get some information, we must ask, what is Denmark getting from it? Denmark will not just help U.S. get information. Denmark is probably getting information as well, obviously, yes. Okay, the U.S. is getting information. They collaborate in this method. Are there other side benefits that Denmark is going to get? Okay, maybe it could be a cut on some military equipment, on price cut on some military equipment and aid, right, that they are getting from the United States. So we don't know exactly, that's just an example. We don't know exactly what benefits they are getting. But as far as we know, these countries corroborate, for example, in NATO, right? What is their interest in NATO? Europe wants to protect its borders. That's why they are in NATO. The United States wants to make sure that Russia doesn't become powerful enough and become a superpower over them. So what the best thing to do is to collaborate with NATO. So again, this is the same thing with the Iran deal, right? Everybody came together, even though when the U.S. pulled out of the JTSOC, Europe and other countries remained. So again, it's about national interest, and you have to put your country's national interest first. One may say, well, that's not how it's supposed to be. I would say, unfortunately, that is how geopolitics and international relations work in the 19th century, in the 20th century, and now in the 21st century. That is never going to change.
You talked about national interest, and it's interesting you mentioned that. Do you think that perhaps that's why we're seeing more outrage from France than we are from Germany, even though the German Chancellor is a target here?
Look, I think what is happening is that sometimes a country like France may feel, okay, we have an obligation to say this is unacceptable. And then Denmark would say, okay, look, we're not supposed to spy on our allies. We're not supposed to spy on our neighbors. But what makes you think Nigeria is not spying on Ghana, or Ghana is not spying on Nigeria, and even a small country like the Gambia spying on Senegal? It's in the nature of how we make our policies. And again, you will need this information. And you will need this, you have to make sure that you get your facts right when you are trying to make policies or when you are trying to make bilateral deals. And most of these deals between America and European nations are multilateral. So you have to make sure that at the end of the day, you protect your interest. And obviously, in negotiations, you try to achieve a win-win situation. Everybody try to use their leverage here and there. And there are some things that you let go in order to achieve something that's bigger or greater, you will let go of certain things. But there is nothing that is going to ever stop these countries or these nations from trying to see what each other are trying to do in order to see how best to protect themselves. It doesn't mean that they don't trust each other 100%. They don't trust each other 100%, but it doesn't mean that for the most part they don't trust each other or cannot work together. They do this and they work together to make sure that they all achieve their goals. And these goals, oftentimes they are.
Again, you talked about you used Nigeria and Ghana as some sort of example. But the question would be, why should Nigeria respond Ghana or Nigeria when there is ECOWAS and there is a military joint task force where everybody can share intelligence? And I asked that before. But I'm asking that again because of Denmark, which also targeted, from this report that we're hearing, also targeted Sweden and Norway. And Sweden and Norway are close allies of Denmark. And do you think that there are going to be consequences of some sort from the European Union?
Being allies, and in fact, if you look at Sweden, Denmark, and Norway, some of these Scandinavian countries the countries in the Baltic region have very, very close relations culturally, historically, pretty much the same group of people, right? But mind you, they are divided into different nations. And in as much as they would agree on so many policies and so many things that they collaborate on effectively, does not mean that there are certain things, especially when it comes to national security matters, when it comes to economic relations, trade policies. It does not mean that they don't have their disagreements. They have their disagreements. Some of these disagreements are not apparent, because they are having a lot of back channel negotiations and talks. But this does not mean that they're not going to collaborate with another country like the United States. If for example, if it is to increase their trade volume, per se, it doesn't mean that they're going to collaborate with them in turn, maybe for a lower tariff for products from Denmark, for example, right? And then Sweden may say, okay, no, you are our neighbor, you're not supposed to do that. But again, that is at Denmark's best interest. So what makes you think they are not going to do that? So that's the question here. That's the thing that most people probably don't see.
Let's just state that the Ghana and Nigeria, you mentioned a hypothetical situation before we spark investigations. Global Affairs analyst